Welcome to Rubber Bellissimo at the Movies. This is a vodcast where we explore all things cinema. Today I am going to be unboxing some fantastic Blu-rays from Second Run, as well as IMPRINT films. So let's dive in, shall we? First one, fantastic, Diamonds of the Night, which is an incredible film from the Czech New Wave period. I'll read the synopsis on the back. Jan Nemec's debut feature is considered one of the most thrilling and startlingly original works of cinema. Told almost without dialogue, it chronicles the tense and desperate journey of two teenage boys who escape from a German train bound for a Nazi concentration camp during World War II. With its virtuoso cinematography, inspired editing, and brilliantly utilized soundtrack, the film is a landmark of the Czech New Wave. Its theme of man's perpetual struggle to preserve human dignity in the face of unimaginable horrors remains fearsomely relevant today. I'll read some of the special features on the back. It's presented from an HD transfer of the new 4K restoration by the Czech National Film Archive. It has a short film called The Loaf of Bread, Jan Nemec's debut short film based on the story by Arnost Lustig. I hope I have these names somewhat right. New filmed interview with Eva Lustigova, daughter of author Arnost Lustig. Audio commentary by film historian Michael Brook. An appreciation of the film by Peter Hames, booklet featuring Michael Brook's essay on the film, world premiere release on Blu-ray. It also says Jan Nemec's acclaimed film, The Party and the Guests, is also available on Second Run. So again, here's our cover, and I'll show you the back there. I just read that all out, but if you want to take a screenshot, feel free to do so. We'll take a look on the inside. It's fantastic. And great little booklet here. So, I mean, the still, it's such a great still. I mean, that scene when they're being chased by the Nazis at the beginning through the forests is, I mean, it's beautifully shot. And not only that, I mean, it's really just throws you right into the story, and really, it's one of the most jaw-dropping sequences that you'll ever see. I mean, it's so well done. So yeah, as we can see, we have these essays and photos. Another one there of the one of the actors in the film. What I also remember is when they do eventually get caught, and the two teenagers and these Nazis are just like throwing, it's the filmmaker on the back. The Nazis are just throwing this party right in front of them, and make them sit in the corner. So the contrast is so frightening as, this party's happening and these two teenagers are just forced to sit in the corner, and they don't know whether they're going to be killed or sent back to the concentration camp or what. But it's a fantastic film. I'm looking forward to diving into those features. This I love. This film is way ahead of its time. David HOLZMAN'S Diary, a film by Jim McBride. I actually heard about it for the first time just last year when I interviewed Jonathan Rosenbaum, because he wrote about it in one of his books. And I mean, this is so good. I'll read the back. Shot in 1967, David HOLZMAN'S Diary is a milestone in contemporary film history. Brilliantly conceived and executed, it manages to simultaneously be very much of its time and very many years ahead of its time. The film tells the story of David HOLZMAN, a young man infatuated with film and filmmaking. Newly unemployed and beset with doubts and worries, HOLZMAN thinks that filming his everyday existence will bring life into focus. Staged to seem like a documentary of a real person's life, HOLZMAN's filming of his life starts to take over his life. Arguably the first mockumentary, it has been little seen but hugely influential on filmmakers over the years. The film is also enormously prescient about our current times when seemingly everyone records everything to do with their lives for the camera, which is exactly what I was thinking when I saw it. Selected for preservation by the U.S. National Film Registry, this is the first time this classic of American cinema has been released on DVD. As a special bonus extra, the second run release also includes director Jim McBride's personal 1969 documentary, My Girlfriend's Wedding, where his camera turns on his liberated English girlfriend and her candid conversations about her life and her reasons for marrying another man. Special features includes the first ever release on DVD of Jim McBride's My Girlfriend's Wedding, which I mentioned is also in the synopsis here, achieving the director's intention for these two films to be shown together, newly filmed interview with director Jim McBride, and new digital transfer with restored image and sound. We have a booklet featuring an essay on both films by U.S. writer, critic Jonathan Rosenbaum. I didn't know, before I got this, I didn't know that he actually was on the feature. Optimal quality dual laser disc. So this is, I know off the top I said these are Blu-rays. This was the one DVD in the set here. So here's our inside as well. And if you want to take a screenshot of the back, which I read out, if you just want to further go over it or read it yourselves, it's all there. And it's so true that this film, I mean, I was shocked when I saw it to think the late 60s that it's so now, you know, it's so ahead of its time. You know, there we go, right? Of people filming everything, which is what he does, and how that turns. I mean, I'm filming myself right now. I love these images, and how that can turn narcissistic, right? And you know, we see that every time. I mean, people, and I include myself in this. I mean, we can't even sort of just going through the images from great, you know, beautiful essays inside. This is of the short film that they mentioned that's on the bonus features. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to jumping in. But is it? I mean, you know, we can't even sometimes enjoy a moment if we're at a concert or what have you. It's like, you know, everything's about images and videos and you know, so there's something sort of perverse about it, of the constant need to sort of be taking so many photos of ourselves and things and video, you know, doing videos of ourselves constantly, you know. So I mean, he was certainly ahead of its time. After that, The Cremator. This is so good. A film by Juraj Herz. I hope I have that right. This is incredible. I read the back. The Cremator has been described in many ways as surrealist horror, political allegory, a pitch-black comic satire, and a darkly disturbing tale of terror. This unique cult film, a brilliantly chilling mix of repulsion and Dr. Strangelove, is set during the Nazi occupation of Czechoslovakia and built around the remarkable performance by Rudolf, I hope I have this somewhat right, Hrusinsky, as the titular cremator. Proud of his mastery of his trade, Mr. Kopfringel's perverse and deranged fantasies gradually lead him towards offering a final solution for the salvation of the world. Just read you can take a screenshot of the back if you want to thoroughly read it, but we've got some great features. This is the world premiere of this on Blu-ray. 16-page booklet featuring an essay on the film and Juraj Herz by writer-producer Daniel Bird. The 2017 Projection Booth podcast on the film, co-hosted by my friend Mike White and Sam Deegan. And of course, I've had them both on my show, and I've gone on Mike's show a number of times. And new and exclusive audio commentary by Kat Ellinger. She's fantastic. She's so fantastic, Kat Ellinger. I love, you know, I could just listen to her in interviews all day, or listen to her review commentary, and she's a great voice in cinema. And we have also The Junk Shop, Juraj Herz's debut short film, presented for the first time on home video. Film introduced by the Q brothers, and this is presented from a new HD remaster and transfer from original materials by the Czech National Film Archive. You know, the this I heard about just a couple of years ago when I, speaking of Sam Deegan, read her book about European art house cinema, which if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it, because there were so many films I hadn't heard of. And she writes about the fact that we often think of the war in simplistic ways, of like the Nazis are the pure bad guys, which of course they were, but that everybody else is the good guys. So which is far from the truth, because many people compromised or were complicit with the Nazis, and there was all kinds of horrendous things. So it's much more that war, which is much more falls in the lines of shades of gray. And her book really kind of explores how, I'll just get to the cover, and it's the filmmaker on the back. Really, that book really kind of explores how we didn't really get till years later. This period, 60s, of course, in the 70s in different countries, performance is fantastic. So again, we have a long essay inside. They don't, it's not really explored in more like complex ways until this period. And even in this film, the main character, he is married to there's the woman who plays the wife. He's married to this woman who's Jewish, and he starts to get interested in becoming a member of the Nazi Party. And when he finds out that when someone tells him, well, you're not going to have a good chance of doing well in the Nazi Party or rising in the party if you're married to someone Jewish, it'll be impossible. So he says you're going to have to get rid of her. And so, it just really shows how people, no matter what, justify what they do, even when they do something so evil. And he justifies it because he has these spiritual beliefs as being a cremator, that he's saving their souls and unleashing their souls so they can be reborn. And so he looks at it like he's doing something good. And again, it just shows how people can justify what they do. And it reminds me of the great line from The Rules of the Game, which is, everybody has their reasons. And that's actually terrifying, that, everything we do, there's a reason behind it, both good and bad. I believe that was the direct line from The Rules of the Game, but if I have that wrong, someone please correct me, because that's a masterpiece. But it just, looking at this reminded me of that, which is also kind of explores, not directly World War II, but was almost predicted a lot of things that were to come, which is incredible to think that Renoir sort of could, in a way, almost could see the future. But I've also reviewed that. If anyone's interested, I'll put the link in the description box below. But this is a masterpiece, so I'm looking forward to jumping into the special features. And lastly, brand new, The Valley of the Bees. And I was very fortunate to be one of the people speaking of Mike White, me and Mike White, did the audio commentary for this all-new projection booth audio commentary with Mike White and Robert Bellissimo. I'm extremely proud to have my first Blu-ray commentary, which means a lot to me. So again, Mike White, thank you so much for trusting in me to do this with you. And I had never done one before. So it was really, really a fun, great experience. And I had never even heard of the film before agreeing to do it. And I watched it, I think 4 or 5 times. I researched it as much as I could. And I love the film. I think it's a near perfect film, and I'll just read the synopsis. Set in a vividly recreated 13th century Europe, Vlacil's medieval epic chronicles the tale of a young boy forced into joining the crusading order of the Teutonic Knights. Years later, he abandons them only to be pursued by a fanatical comrade and made to pay a terrible price for his rejection of the Holy Order. Visually stunning, hypnotic, and disturbing, the film remains relevant both stylistically and politically. A moral fable just as powerful and compelling as Vlacil's most famous work, Marketa Lazarova, which is you can see on the Criterion channel, which is fantastic. It's either Vlacil or Vlacil. I hope I have that somewhat right. Some of these Czech names, I'm having a little a bit of a challenge saying, but I love them all. But this here, just if you want to take a better look at the, take a screenshot and read up on this. All the features are fantastic. I listened to the commentary, and I thought Mike did a great job editing it, and I was really proud of what we did. Take a look on the inside. But this film, I mean, it sort of really shows how, I mean, it happens to be like religious extremism, or, you know, they're like this military. I mean, the Teutonic Knights were a real, you know, I guess you'd call it organization or military organization, and they were extreme, and so you see how that can oppress people, and so they don't have any kind of individual thought, and so you see how that leads to sort of a real madness and contradictions and complexities within the main relationship in the film. And there's the man right there. Now I've seen a number of his films. Vlacil is man, he's amazing. And to think that, you know, for me, I've never even heard much about him. And, you know, Markéta Lazarova, his other film, is this guy's amazing, by the way. Performance is incredible. Is considered the best Czech film, as we can see. These essays are so well done. It's considered the best Czech film made in Czechoslovakia, which is now known as Czech Republic. He's incredible. This, you know, I mean, the performances, and his character is so complex and contradicts himself often, and he's oppressed, and then as a result of his oppression, he you know, severely then represses himself, unfortunately. And man, I mean, it also has a sort of one could interpret that the relationship between the two men is homosexual. It's I mean, it really is a hard film to watch, and it's ambiguous in a good way. I mean that, of course, and you know, the two central characters here, you know, you could think that they're father and son, brothers, that they're like lovers. There's so many layers to it, and every time I see it, I see something new. And I mean, it's, you know, and then we have this sort of love triangle, and this woman was actually the characters in the middle stepmother. I mean, it's again, it's transgressive, it's dark, it's moody, but it just shows how sort of cults or, you know, religious extremism or, you know, dictatorship just destroys people. And it happens to be religious extremism, but you know, at the time Czechoslovakia was under a communist dictatorship. So you can look at it as almost a metaphor for that, about how, you know, people couldn't have any kind of individual thought. It was sort of follow orders and don't think outside the box, and, you know, just making people think and feel one way. So without having any sense of freedom. So the film, you know, really explores that. And it's unbelievable. So I want to thank again Second Run for sending me these, because these are all, I mean, I'm so lucky to have these as on my shelf. And we're going to move into Imprint Films. So thank you again, Imprint Films, for sending me Banning. Hadn't heard of it before. I will read the back. Athletic Mike McDermott's Playboy lifestyle has seen him kicked off the golf pro circuit when accused of match fixing. With the new name of Banning, he hustles from one country club and woman to another, leading to a high-stakes tournament and a sudden death playoff for his life. Just take a look at the back if you want to take a screenshot, but I'll read. I will read. That's a great photo. Actually, Robert Wagner married Jill St. John years later. Is the two of them looking at each other there. He married her in 1990. This was 1967. So we have a 1080p high definition presentation from a new 2K scan of an interpositive by Imprint Films, audio commentary by film historians Howard S. Berger and Steve Mitchell. A hole in one. Robert Wagner and Jill St. John remember Banning. Members only, scoring banning, interview with author/film historian John Burlingham on Quincy Jones score, isolated music track of the Quincy Jones score, and a theatrical trailer. So let's take a look at take a look inside. I love their packages; they're always so beautifully done. Is the inside, and everything I just read is also here. If people want to take a screenshot. And here's our inside. A nice picture in the center. Pop out the disc just to give people a better look. But the film, I hadn't heard of it, but it would look kind of intriguing. And there we go. The film is okay. It's if you like Robert Wagner and Gene Hackman in particular, Gene Hackman has a small part in it. It is honestly worth it just for Hackman, because he's this guy who's, without giving too much away since this isn't a review, but he did something in the past that he's really ashamed of, and just the remorse he brings to it. And he's got a great scene with Robert Wagner as he apologizes to him because he actually screwed his Robert Wagner's character over this whole match fixing scandal, which is what ruined the career of Robert Wagner's character, who now calls himself Banning. Hackman's character was involved in, and he apologizes to him. And I mean, he's amazing. I mean, he's one of the masters of the craft of acting, in my view. And here he was, this is before, I'm not sure if this was out before Bonnie and Clyde. It's the same year, 67, but this is pre-French Connection, I Never Sang for My Father, and like I said, pre-Bonnie and Clyde. Obviously, as we know, French Connection is where he became a big star, but you see some, even in the supporting parts he played before he became a star, that he was, his talent was incredible from the beginning, in my view. I remember once reading that he felt he wasn't very good in film until Bonnie. He said he didn't really start to learn about film acting until Bonnie and Clyde. He came from the theater. He felt that Arthur Penn really showed him how to act on film. But I mean, I haven't seen everything he did before Bonnie and Clyde, but from the ones I've seen, Lilith is another one. And this is, this one, like I just saw, he's amazing. So honestly, this is worth getting just for Hackman, because if you want to be an actor, study Gene Hackman, because he's incredible. I like Wagner a lot as well. I think he's actually a really interesting actor. In my view, in this film, he played it a little too cool for school, in my view, because these people really ruined his life, and his life is on the line in this kind of high stake game at the end, where these he owes these gangsters all this money, and he has to win the game in order to make $20,000 to pay them back. And he's very, very calm. I mean, you could sense his stress, but he's extremely confident. It's partly the way it's written, so but you do really get a sense of his inner turmoil, and the film is very, very subtle. So I'm not sure how he was directed, but everyone is very, very subtle in it, and it's a very quiet film. I think that's partly why it sort of falls flat emotionally. It's like this big Technicolor film. It's beautiful. Again, the restoration's beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful to look at. I love Quincy Jones's score. It's just that it's a very romantic, sort of mellow score, which is great. And there is a romance at the heart of it. It seems like, based on this, that it's with Jill St. John. But, I mean, she's after Wagner's character. She's very, very attracted to him. But he's actually very, very much falls for this other, one of the other female characters in the film. So it just doesn't, when you think of like a great, I mean, it has that thing where you think of when you think of sport films. I mean, at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone could comment below, I can't think of many great sport films, really, that we didn't really start to see until like Slapshot. And then, of course, that became much bigger in the 80s and 90s, where it's like the underdog story. I mean, he's not an underdog, but he's in trouble. We know he's a great golfer, but the underdogs against like some, great established team, and everything is building up to that moment of them playing off. You think of something like even in the 90s, like the Mighty Ducks or something. So that formula, and this kind of has that, but then it has also like this romance, and there's also all these very rich people are sort of corrupt and dishonest, and Wagner as Banning is an extremely honest person. So I mean I'm behind the message of one should always be honest, and leave a life of dignity, and that the ultra rich are often corrupt. I like that, and I can get behind that, but it just sort of tries to be kind of too many things, and it just feels uneven, and again doesn't have the most emotion in it, in my view. I think particularly it's also strange that Banning, who was screwed over by these people, would then go to them because he needs money, because initially he just tries to get a job with them. I can understand being desperate, but it was a little hard to believe that he would have gone that he wouldn't be able, they destroyed his career. It's a little hard to believe that he could even look at them without wanting to kill them, but he kind of goes within this very ultra rich world, and it just for me didn't quite work, and also they withhold information. We don't actually know what they did to him until the last 20 minutes. And I'm all for ambiguity and complex characters and not spelling things out, but particularly if it's like psychological or what a relationship is like with two people. I actually hate when everything is sort of served to you, but but when it's a plot based film where it's based on plot as opposed to character, this film is more plot based. It has some interesting character dynamics, but it's much more plot based. It's fine to withhold information for a little bit. That can work well and add like a mood or a mystery, but they withhold so much information until like the last 20 minutes. So it's kind of hard to get emotionally invested because you don't know exactly what is driving him to do this, other than that he needs money. So it's a little, it leaves you sort of feeling cold. But maybe now that once I know everything, now that I know all the details, I'll enjoy it more in a second viewing. So, but nonetheless, if there's just to see these some great actors in here. A lot of them went on to have great careers, like Gene Hackman, and the special features are quite good. About Quincy Jones's score and the interview with Robert Wagner and Jill St. John. Looks like they're talking on Zoom. It's great. It's great that we have this. So there we go. If you're interested, get this from Imprint Films, and I will leave the link in the description box below for where you can get it, as well as where you can get all of these fantastic. Since I have my microphone, I can't hold everything up because I'll drop everything. Here, I'll do my best to do a image or something. Thank God for editing. Probably the best I can do without dropping my mic. So there we have it. If you've seen any of these or if you own any of them, comment below. Let me know what you think of these great releases. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I want to thank all of my members on Patreon. If you're interested in becoming a member of my Patreon, head over to the link, patreon.com/Robert Bellissimo at the movies for full details. Patreon is exclusive content that I create month in and month out. And as a subscriber, you are able to vote on polls and contribute to what I do on Patreon month in and month out. So head over to the link for full details. You can also leave a donation directly to my YouTube channel by pressing the thanks link, which you will find directly below the video frame. Just click on the thanks link and you can leave a donation there if you choose to. And lastly, if this is your first time here, please consider subscribing. It is absolutely free to do so by pressing the Robert Bellissimo at the movies logo. You will see it floating above my head in the top left corner. To your top left in just a second, just click on that and then click the bell in order to get a notification every time I release release one of my new episodes. Also, click the like button and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of this episode. Also, you can also share the episode. All of these things are what produce traction to my YouTube channel. So I appreciate you watching, and thank you again, and I will see you in the next episode.